Clay's Cortex.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to this episode of Clay's Cortex, the podcast. And I'm actually really excited for this episode today. I've thought about doing a podcast episode with Meredith, who's the guest today, for a while, and it's been crazy times. And so she started something new, and it's awesome. And so I wanted to get her on to talk about it a little bit. And so in this episode, we're going to be talking about her fitness journey a little bit, and we're just going to talk pretty much. So I'm excited for this, and I'm sure the title of this episode will come up at some point through this episode. So today's guest is Meredith Mack. She's a trainer. I met her years ago at a course I went to when it came to physics and exercise and so forth. And we had some great discussions. I think I remember that one talk we all went to dinner and we were bouncing ideas off. And I was like, man, that was a really good chat, you know. So I'm really excited. So I'm going to kind of be quiet as I usually am. And I'm going to let Meredith talk about herself, who she is, where she's at, and we'll hit the ground running.
Thanks so much for having me, Curtis. It's really very excited to be here to talk to you. And it's been a crazy year. We were just saying before we started this, and it's given me time to actually process a lot of where I've been on this journey with fitness. And it's been kind of all over the map, to be honest with you. And I think about a lot how much an integral part of my life it's been. It's been the same way that a little embarrassed to admit this, but the same way that I sleep with my teddy bear still at night. It's been a friend. It's been a partner for me throughout my life in one way or another. So I have done everything from just kind of dance. It's kind of how I started off, I think, with movement and running around as a kid and not really having a formal athletic fitness background, but just kind of exploring. And a lot of my friends played sports and were on teams, and that was really never a part of my life. I never went that sort of team route. So I don't have that experience necessarily, but dance kind of brought me into learning more about nutrition and how to manipulate variables from that perspective at a young age, which I think, looking back on it, had positives and negatives. So it got me interested in it, but being focused on that at a young age can start to be slightly unhealthy if you take it to an extreme, right? So, but in college, I started off as a dance major and then changed to nutrition. Okay. So continued to be that. And then eventually I started working at a gym, just at the front desk actually, and started training. And actually at that gym, which I was just at for the first time in a while yesterday, in New York City, that's how I got introduced to muscle activation and resistance training specialists, and met a lot of the people that I still think of as mentors and colleagues and really brilliant people doing great things. So I'm so grateful to have just sort of happened upon that gym and happened upon the people that I met there. And so, that took me out to Oklahoma City, and that took me out to, being able to meet you and have those conversations with you and learning about physics. And I think, so I think of that as kind of being like a before and after. Because before my experience in learning about physics or exercise from a physics mindset,
love it,
versus more of I think up until that point it had always been more of a consumer mindset, I'm learning about it as I go along. I'm looking at what other people are doing in the gym and trying to figure out things based on what I might find online. I don't know if there was online at that point, but
I think there was. Yeah, there was.
Like a magazine, and you're just reading, and you're just, so I think that learning about it from a physics-based perspective is what really made me feel wow, I can control these things. It was another kind of control. It was another kind of way to manipulate things that I hadn't even been, they were always happening around me, but I didn't know how to adjust for them, how to look at a person's body and say I'm seeing this, or they're feeling that, and how can I make this exercise more appropriate? How can I make it more beneficial? And that's the other thing that I would say, the caveat to all of this for me, and maybe in part, I don't know, because I didn't have a sports background, was that my whole goal is always like, I want to be able to do this for as long as I possibly can.
I love it.
I want to feel good as long as I possibly can. I want to be able to be independent for as long as I possibly can. I want to feel strong, you know? Right. And what does that mean? Sometimes that means saying, okay, today's not the right day to push this. Today's not the right day to, or how do I adjust this exercise so that I can still feel something, still feel like I'm working on strengthening something without creating inflammation or creating something that's going to be a detriment.
I love it.
So yeah, so the tension generation. So I've been spending a lot of time alone. Like, just we all kind of
we all have, right? Yeah.
I've got, like, I have a fish now. I'm talking to my fish. I've got my skeleton, and but I was just sitting here and I was reading like some really cool books, like Legends of Fitness. I don't even remember how I came upon it, but it was like, and I was looking back through it, and it was like Charles Atlas and like these like strong men type people, and Charles Atlas had this thing called dynamic tension, and that was kind of like his program. And I think when I'm in the gym, I'm thinking about, okay, what are my tension generating capabilities today? What do I have? And like where am I no longer able to generate tension?
Okay.
And I just loved, though, that this, like, I'm sitting here, we're all sitting here during this pandemic, during these times that are just like, it's really tense. Like, I'm really tense. Like, what's going to happen? I'm anxious, you know? And but I loved the fact that, like, there's power in being faced with challenging circumstances. There's and feeling like I know that I'm going to be stronger because of it. And so I think that's kind of how I think about exercise too. Like, I can't do this today. Meaning, like, I don't have the ability to generate enough tension to perform this thing or to do this the way I want to do it today.
Yeah.
But what's so great about the body, and like miraculous and magical, I think, is like, you know, you ask your body something, you say, can I have this today? And it's like, nah, not yet. But like, you keep going back, you know, and you keep trying, and it's like one day, sometimes it's like, all right, today's the day. Like, you can do this now. Like, you've earned the right, you've earned the muscle, you've earned the strength, and I love that, you know, I love that feeling. But I also love the process of like leading up to it, because it's like, if you just could have it all at once, like, what would be the fun in that? It's like
exactly
that goes along with it. And so that's kind of where that name came from. And it just felt appropriate for like the time that we're in, as well as how I like to think about exercise.
Yeah.
I feel like it encompasses the fact that, like, you know, I do love to dance, and I do love to move in other ways outside of just like going to the gym and lifting weights.
Right.
But like, all of those things require that ability and like the right amount of tension for the right thing. So
I love it. What's really cool is like just hearing like your journey and background and so forth, and going through and kind of seeing that, like, you were doing dance and there was nothing really formal. And I think that there's some beauty in that, right? I think, like, because I played sports in college and so forth, and it could have carried on. And I've always been somebody that challenges people, and I've had to work on, like, I don't do it in a mean way, but it's because I'm curious, right? And so, and I like doing that. And so it was kind of interesting is when I was in college, I'd be like, well, why are we doing that exercise this way? Can't I do it this way? It feels better this way. And the strength coach would be like, well, sure, or whatever. And I'm like, there has to be an answer. And as I was going through my major, I had one professor who would actually accept my questions, if that makes sense. Other ones would get frustrated to some aspect. And I think what's cool about the dance background is they want you to achieve these movements or positions or whatever it is. And learning how to create tension and controlling your body will help with that. I mean, I think dance, things where your body is the instrument versus, like, I played baseball. I was manipulating around the ball or with the bat. And so learning how to move without an instrument, I think, is pretty powerful. And I think you become a better mover that way. And I think the cool part, like you said, where that book you're reading, Legends of Fitness, right? So I got to check that out. And so what's cool is,
like, it's just such like a history of these things and like how it all came about, you know?
So, And I think what's cool is the ability to use the gym to create those things that you want to do. And I think one thing that a lot of us don't think about, and we may say it, is you said I want to feel as good and be as independent as long as I can. And I think that's a crucial thing that people don't realize when it comes to exercise or fitness, especially like with nutrition and stuff. I refer out for that type of stuff. Like I'll give like basic stuff, but if someone wants a detailed plan, I'll refer out. But yeah, I think that's pretty cool. So you were talking about essentially when you work out, you really think about tension. You're thinking about those things.
I'm doing it to be a little bit to just, I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm having a conversation with my body, like when I start to work out, it's like, all right, what are we doing today? What do we have available today? I generally begin my workouts knowing what I'm trying to accomplish.
Okay.
Knowing what I'd like to go in and do, but I'm sure, I hope maybe you can relate, like things don't always go exactly the way that you think it's going to go. And so
you have an example of that? Like, give me an example of what you mean. Like, I know what you mean, but what do you mean by that?
Well, I was doing like a chest workout the other day. And so I was doing just like a dumbbell chest press, which is like generally pretty like, I don't know, like it's a good way. I like warming up like that. Like with like a lighter weight, kind of like seeing how things are feeling on my shoulders. So I've been having a little bit of like a right shoulder thing. Okay. And it's not enough to whatever, but it's just like an awareness of something, right? Yes. So as I was going through and kind of like doing a set and that felt fine, and then maybe increasing the weight and doing another set and that felt fine, and then kind of like at my like upper end weight, I was like, meh, like on like rep 6, I was like, my right shoulder just doesn't feel as stable as my left one. And so, and I'm like, okay, I stopped kind of sooner than what I would have wanted to, maybe like, or know what I could have maybe done on another day. Okay. And maybe I am not even gonna, that maybe I'm gonna find a different way to explore, like, what would it mean to challenge a chest, like pec muscle without feeling that? Could I go through a different path of motion? Could I do something like not with dumbbells? Could I find it like a machine that maybe is a little more like forgiving in certain ranges? Yeah. Things like that. But that happens, sometimes if I'm gonna do like a leg workout, and maybe like the other day, like my left dorsiflexion like didn't feel great. So like as I'm getting to the depth of my squat, I'm like, like I could push it, but like what's the benefit of pushing it? Like what if I kind of block my heels up a little bit so that I don't have to go into dorsiflexion as into that range as much. Love it. So things like that, where and then the next week or the next time I go back to that activity, it might be different. Or and like thinking about, so I've been really thinking about like limiting factors and like trying to play around with like, okay, so I know that now that like consistently enough, this left dorsiflexion is kind of an issue at the bottom of my squat. So I have options, right? I can either choose to block my heels up all the time. I can do that and also at the same time be working on like trying to increase the range of my ankle dorsiflexion through like stimulating the muscles that contribute to dorsiflexion. Yeah, so there's like different ways to approach that, but like I can accept that this today might be a limiting factor for this exercise. Is it something that I can work on to improve so that it's not? Is it something that I even care about? So I was like thinking about it in terms of like deadlifts the other day. I always use like wrist straps. I just do. Yeah. I have been more focused on like the glute development than I have been on like caring about if I have the grip strength to do. Right. But for somebody else, that might be a big component. If I was, participating in an activity where like that wasn't allowed, like then it would be beneficial, right? Right. So, yeah, but I think like being aware and also the idea that it's not necessarily good or bad or right or wrong. It's just an objective, like this is what's happening today. Because I think that that's the thing that can come up too, is like we can get like, oh my God, like why can't I do this? Or like this means I shouldn't work out, or this means I shouldn't. Well, maybe that's just not the thing that we do today. Maybe that's just not what we choose to like really push today, I love it. And I think what's really cool about that and thinking about it is that's why I think in-person training, like we talked a little bit before about how I'm doing some online stuff. Yeah. It's a subset. Like it's
it's something that, people are so nervous to go out and stuff, which is totally cool.
Yeah.
Or they're like, you know what, man, I like this as a supplemental to what we're doing. I'm like, cool. If I
Right.
can help walk along this journey with you, and if you feel encouraged to do that, do that. What's really great about in person is we can change things on the fly, right? And I think that
Yeah.
as a trainer, like you're a trainer, exercise professional, and you get after it, you do a great job, right? And so with that being said, your mind is always thinking. And there's an analogy that I give to the guys here at the gym where I say, guys, you realize that every time or when you walk into the door that day, like you're performing a concert, right? I was trying to use an analogy. And they were like, okay, I was like, so depending on how busy you want to get or how big you want the crowd to be at your concert, that's how many people you're going to let in. So like if you don't feel like you can make those appropriate decisions, or you've got so many people where you have a tough time of getting them going, you may not be able to take on 20 clients total, because if you feel like it's deviating your focus, it can throw it off. And what was super cool is you were talking about how like, oh, I just changed this today and I did this, and it doesn't mean it's going to be the same. Maybe I'm going to work on that thing. If that's important for me to not have my heels elevated or blocked off, so I can go down there, I'm going to work on those things, right? And I think that's what's really cool about exercise. And like you said earlier, I think you said it wonderfully, was that the body's magical, right? It's amazing what it can do. I just don't think that we know. Sometimes we've never been pushed, or we've never been given, I guess, like permission to be like, to speak up for ourselves, right? Like telling somebody that doesn't feel good. And I think when we frame it in a way to where, that's why I think it's the name of what you're doing is the tension generation, is, are you creating tension to allow this movement to happen? Everybody thinks about the movement, but what's causing the movement to happen?
Right.
It's the tension, right? And so that's what I thought was really cool. And like, especially those discussions we have about, well, I think sometimes it was like marketing or posting, and then it was like on exercise. I mean, the discussions went kind of all over the place, but it was cool to see. I really enjoy hearing how people think and how they approach things. And it was really cool how you said that. Whereas like, what are my limiting factors? What are the things that are not changing? And maybe that's something that could be an issue down the road. If I'm not creating tension in those areas and I can't control that, that could come up something else later on down the road. So
Yeah.
when you're working out, how much do you think about creating this tension? You know what I'm saying? What do you like? How do you approach that?
Yeah, I mean, I like to think that I'm thinking about it kind of constantly. Like I like to think about even trying to just like, because again, one of those magical things and like the things that I find thrilling, which is like when I think about like that, using that word, but like it's thrilling to me to be able to feel like locked into an exercise, to feel like the things that I want to feel working are working.
Love it.
And like that's another thing that's interesting too, I think. And I love what you said about like feeling empowered enough, whether it's as the trainer to say it to the client or the client to say it to the trainer, because I feel like it's like such an important, communication, ongoing communication. Like this doesn't feel good today, because I've had clients that try to like that don't want to share that information.
I feel you.
Or I had somebody in that same set of chest presses that I was talking about a little bit ago. I had another person at the gym who was just working out, not a trainer, say, "Oh, you had one more rep." And I was like, I didn't say, I was just like, no, I didn't. But like, I'm inside my body.
Right.
I'm feeling this thing with my shoulder. You're seeing it from your outer perspective. And so I politely disagree. Like, I know what I'm trying to achieve and accomplish, and my body's giving me this information. And so like, I really try to make that point with my clients too. Like something might be happening inside of you,
right,
before I am able to see it. If you feel something before I am able to I want to know that information. And so like the other day I've been trying to film more of my workout.
Cool.
So that I
can
and share like ways I'm thinking about things. And it was funny because I was doing a front squat and I was like kind of trying to show like different segmental proportions and how things like fold up, like based on, and I had like something under my heels and I had like a kind of heavy-ish weight for me. And I got to like, so I'm going back and looking at the video and it gets to like the last rep and I'm like, why did I stop? I had another rep.
Right.
And then I remembered, I was like, oh no, I felt my thoracic spine starting to give.
Yeah.
And maybe if there had been a trainer there, like it would have been okay, but like I didn't feel comfortable. And I think I'm always trying to know what it is I'm trying to engage.
Okay.
And like trying to create the tension around that spot or connect my brain to the thing and then moving from that space.
I love it. And that's I'll never forget when I first got exposed to that. I think the closest thing I got to before being exposed to that was like just tempos, right? Like, oh, if I just slow down, I'm feeling it more. And then I started researching, tension or how the eccentric, how that impacts your system, so forth. Right? I was always like hungry, looking for stuff. But then I was like, I never thought about during the concentric, am I actually owning every single portion of that? And am I owning the things I don't want to move?
Right.
I think sometimes the things that you don't want to move is harder. Which is fine. I see it with like people that come in, people that come in that'll be like, like, oh yeah, I've been working out for 10 years, and I've done this, and this. I'm like, that's cool. I was like, okay, well, sometimes I'll be like, all right, well, I like to build autonomy sometimes where I'm like, all right, listen, this is what we're going to work on today. And I give them options of exercises. So I'm like, we can either do this or this. And then, and I kind of let them pick so they feel like empowered. And then through that, I'll show them, hey, listen, let's do this, this, and this, because you're not doing this very well. Right. Or where do you feel it? That's probably my number one question. And the funny thing is, like, and I'm sure you asked that, like, they'll be like, here? Like, like, no, I don't care where you feel it. I want to know where you feel it right now.
Right.
And can we change that experience? Right. I don't want you to give me an answer,
And isn't that, to me, again, that goes back to like, I think that's the almost one of the greatest things that you can like own for yourself. And then the feelings of like elation as a trainer when your client is like able to like really, like what you said, hold the things still that are supposed to be still and move the things that are supposed to move. And it's like when the things, you can't hold them still anymore, then the set's over. And when you can't move anymore, you know what I mean? It's like, but when they can really own that for themselves, like that's a great feeling. And like, and then you feel engaged with the things that are working. And I mean, I feel like that's kind of like one of the biggest things that anybody can do or get better at in improving their exercise experience, improving their.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just a way to kind of increase. I mean, I've had people like, I love exercise now. Like I liked it, but now I really like it, and that's exciting.
And so that's what I want for people to get. Like when somebody asked me, well, okay, the other day, something that's currently like a currently held belief in your industry, if like it was not existent in 20 years, like what would you want that belief to be? And it's like that people struggle to exercise, like not enough of us are. The people who love it and whatever, but like I want people to think about exercise the same way they do when they're brushing their teeth, not in the mindless way, but like just that you accept it as a part of your day. You feel happy because your teeth are clean. But like it shouldn't be this thing that we struggle to even like should I, shouldn't I don't want to, I mean, we waste so much energy on the internal struggle of like, am I going to go or am I not going to go? Or like, how do I fit this into my life? How do I don't? But like, I think that's just because people haven't had great exercise experiences.
I agree. I mean, I think that's a massive thing to think about. And I think that's why and that's why I think the name that you're doing with what you're doing is great, because people don't create tension when they're working out. I mean, I probably did a 30-minute workout yesterday, and I'm a little bit sore, not in a bad way, but I'm like, oh man, I went to go change my son's diaper this morning, and he was just like, he's a heavy dude, and I was like, whoa, my biceps are there a little bit, and I'm just kind of like, whoa. But I think if people like, there was some athletes in here, and some like they're in here, they were watching me work it out, and they're just like, wait, you're done? I'm like, yeah, when I'm done, I'm done, right? And it was almost like a light bulb for them. And I think what's kind of cool is when they can see like, whoa, like Curtis is strong, Curtis is fit. What's he doing? And it's a great chance to go back and have those discussions of like, there's a girl that comes in, she just had like a knee surgery. And one of her days of her program is just learning how to create tension. So we're adding like bands above the knees. And then the goal is to remove those, right? And she's like, I get it. And that's what's kind of cool, because when people can learn to create tension, you're going to have a much more effective workout. If you're focused on moving it from point A to point B, but there's nothing in between, it's like getting 2 pieces of bread. It's like, oh, make me a sandwich. Cool. Here's your 2 pieces of bread. The good stuff happens in the middle.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah.
So it's like,
true.
like,
It's true. It doesn't.
yeah,
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I think that people are just like, oh, okay, I'm going to go do 20 reps of this. I'm going to burn this many calories. I'm going to get tired and feel sweaty. But like, there's so much good stuff that's happening if you really are paying attention to it and like really trying to connect with it and learn about it. But yeah, I think it's a process for people because I think that by and large, like we've been given experiences that weren't all that great. And so I don't blame people. I was thinking about that too, though, especially like as we were all on lockdown and I'm trying to kind of create some of my work here at home. And I'm like, man, if all I had were like boot camp style, like drills, or like burpee, whatever, I wouldn't want to work out either. Like maybe those things have their place at some points, but like for me, I know how I like to work out and for me, it feels very sustainable. It feels like something I want to return to on a regular basis. It feels like something that I want to continue throughout my life because I enjoy it. If I didn't like it or didn't look forward to doing it, like I don't even know how it would feel like a struggle. It would feel like
it's almost like a forced relationship. You know what I'm saying? It's like no, this is tough, right? Like, you meet people, or just even like a friendship, dude. You meet people and you're like, wow, like I can handle you for just so long.
Right. The energy's just not, it's not the right chemistry. It's not the right fit.
Yeah. It's like, I think of like F45 and it's like, all right, I got 45 minutes and I'm out. You know, like sweet. That's all I can do. It's like, well, wait a second here, Yeah. That's cool though. That's really cool. And I think what's cool, what you said is it feels sustainable, right? Where what you just said, you're like, I want to go back to it.
Right.
And I think what's really cool and what that's telling me through that is that it is nourishing to you. And I think exercise can be, but how it's being sold. And I mean, we know this. It's Brett Contreras did a post. I reposted it, and I got a bunch of comments from it and stuff, or on Instagram, like on my story, and they're like, "Yeah, that's really interesting." But I don't think this just applies to the exercise industry, right? They talk about things like, he's like in the 2000s versus 2020s. It was like, you give credit. One that stuck out to me is you give credit where credit is due. And then it was like and then on 2020, it's like you see something and then you act like you created it. And, and you get more likes or whatever it is, which it's like, cool, that's fine. Your followers may have not seen something like that before, which is cool.
Right.
And it's a platform, right? I mean, it's just a platform. But I think the beauty of understanding where something came from or where you got that from is like, why was that person that you're referencing, what took them on that journey? And I really enjoy that because like, if I look at like manual muscle testing, why was it created? Right. And when I figured that out, and then I went to another course where they talked about the history of it, I was blown away. Yeah. And to me, it was like, that's amazing. And it just proved validity of like how much our muscular system, the tension we create, how well we move, lets us know about the health of our overall system, And when like people lose the ability to create tension and control their body, something's going on. And so like kids have been seeing me do stuff with my wrists recently just because like there was snow here. And so I wanted to be able to come in and I was shoveling the snow.
Yeah.
And I slipped and like put my hand down and I was like, my wrist is sore. And then I thought I'd crack something. I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm like working through things I can tolerate and own.
Yeah.
And it's just funny because I think about that. It's like my journey with my wrist it's fine now, but it's just interesting to think about where, can we be intentional? Can we go and focus on things we need to focus on? And I just think it's like, nope, I got to put in a brace. I got to do this, and to understand like my muscles and like, hey, something's going on with that wrist, right?
Yeah.
So what am I being mindful of? My wrist isn't doing good. Will my grip be bad? Will my elbow hurt? Like I'm just thinking about all these things, right? I'm like, oh, that's a normal thing. So that's why I've been doing more like elbow flexion-y type stuff, and it's better. But the beauty of understanding when we reference things, we can know like, okay, where'd they get that from? And then you go to the source, right? And that's why I think it's cool. The book you were like, I got to check this book out.
Yeah.
So
I agree with you. Like, because at some point you're like, I really like, I love this thing. But how did we get here? How did we even get to the place where we are now? How, what was it? And because like there are so many different trends that kind of come and go, and it's the coolest thing. So in this Legends of Fitness book, another book came up, which is Well, it was the first pulley system. It was called the polymachinon, and it was like this guy developed it in like the 1850s, and I was able to get like a reformatted version of the instruction booklet for the polymachinon. So I've been reading this. But it's so great because like it's things that we're talking about right now in terms of like you need to hold this still and while you're moving this, and if you don't, the movement will be frustrated. And like even like the language is so interesting, you know, but like it's British and but these things have been around for a long time, these ideas of like movement and athleticism and like and creating the tools that we use. So like that's another thing is like, you know, just even like the progression of how a dumbbell or a barbell or all the turns that's taken. It's like, or pulley systems or, you know, cams, and there's just so much cool stuff out there to explore. And I
agree. And I think one thing you said earlier too, we were talking about the client's experience or their exercise experience that they're having. And I think understanding the physics of those things will help them create tension in a way to where they're like, I actually like this. I'm feeling it in my muscles versus my joints versus these things. And so being understand the history of things and being able to progress forward, it also helps us make better decisions. I mean, like, wow, like, yeah, like I might even today just pop it in and be like, yeah, your movement's frustrated, you know, like, so it's like, it's cool to hear other people think and process things, because I mean, it really comes down to being able to create tension. And, you know, if I think about Jacques' class, right, like, the ways that we create tension, the ways that, you know, like how the nervous system plays a massive role, understanding baseline, how to create tension is going to help us. And the degrees of tension, right? Like I'm not in maximal contraction here while I'm sitting, because if I was, it would look awkward on here. But, you know, I think that's kind of crucial, where it's like, if we can learn to create tension and allow that to create the motion, it's gonna make a difference. And that's the beauty, I believe, exercise. To me, it's like a wonderful relationship where it's continuing to progress. And yeah, I've got this down, you know, like I can like look at my wife now and like we'll give a look or like a little face, and she's like, she knows exactly what I'm saying. I'm like, okay, cool. Or it's like, hey, we got to sit down and talk about this and planning, where it's like, okay, that's like a brand new lift for me, you know, or whatever it is. And I think
but
it's endless, you know?
Right. I'm constantly learning about each other, you know, like your body and your brain and all of it together. And exercise, it's I don't know. It's been a really important piece of my life, and continues to be. So grateful for that. I mean,
it is challenging some days, but it is so fulfilling, you know, where it's like, man, I feel good. Like I don't know if we're talking about the guys here, but like some of them get hurt, they'll get tweaked. The guys that work here, they'll get tweaked and stuff, you know. And I'm like, dude, I don't ever hurt.
Yeah.
You know, besides my wrist right now. Sorry. Besides my wrist. You know, I feel good. I'll get off a little bit, do a couple exercises, and I'm like, oh, that's better. Or if I really feel like I'm off, I'll adjust. Like I started golfing probably more intensely. Like I don't go like enough like to be good. Like I'm decent, but that really caused some havoc on my system with how I was feeling, because with a baseball bat, it's kind of balanced, and with the golf club, all the weight's at the end, and I'm like whipping this thing compared to baseball bat. So that took me time. That was a new stress to my system. And then I was like, well, how can I use exercise to prepare? Just like you were saying, use exercise to help with dance or like roller skating right now. You know, it's like, how's that going to help, you know?
Roller skating. But but that's an interesting point, because like, as I have been dancing a little bit more, again, like that introduces new forces, and like that I had taken a break from a while, so putting my body into different ranges than I had been previously, maybe, and that does create some stuff comes up from it, like that you kind of like, okay, how am I going to handle this? How am I going to address it? How am I going to, you know, work on making it so that, or how do I need to pull back so that I can get acclimate to it in a more progressive, like you know, slower pace. Or what can I do at the gym to support what I'm trying to do with dance and that kind of stuff. So
which is sweet, man, which is great. Yeah, man. So that's pretty cool. I mean, I feel like we could do a whole other episode, you know. This was great, man. I really appreciate it, and talking about your perspective on tension, what you're doing. And I know that there's going to be a lot of people that are curious about you. Where can they find you? You know, if they like had a question for you or was, hey, that was a really great episode, thank you, because you're the first female in the episode, right? And I'm like, right? So I'm like, all right, here we go, right?
Thank
so I think there's going to be
you.
a good amount of people that might be curious to ask you questions or, hey, thank you. Where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram at the Tension Generation. So that's probably the best place. I'm happy to answer any questions or, you know, that's great. I'm happy to be the first female. That makes me really, really happy.
Yeah, there you go, right? Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Well, I think I need to get some more, which would be good. But I think, I think even from this episode, there'd probably be some like, hey, that was really cool. Like, can you guys talk about this? Like, I just think that a perspective of yours, even from the dance, your history and stuff, like they're curious about that. Because I've gotten a few dancers or I have a meeting with some gymnasts facility here, and they're interested. And so I think it might be a cool way. Like they have different goals of movement with their body.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and that's something that I'm actually really trying to explore right now too. I'm working on creating like a thing, like a device, like a tool that, you know, because I just think dance is so unique in that it is really like living in these end range positions, you know, and so that's a very different experience than other things. So yeah,
I love it. I love it, man. We didn't even talk about ranges during a podcast, but we'll call it there. But dude, Meredith, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Kurt.
Yeah, so good, so good. So guys, thank you for this episode. Thanks for listening to this episode. If you want to reach out to Meredith, check her out on Instagram, The Tension Generation. Yes, correct. The Tension Generation. I thought there was an next one. Check her out. They'll be in the show notes. You know, you'll see the logo in the beginning of this video and stuff too. And thank you again, guys. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Cortex.